Hello and welcome to Walking the Weird. Thank you so much for joining me for another weird walk. Today I'm in Wiltshire and I'm on Salisbury Plains and I've come to investigate the lost village of Imber. Imber was a thriving agricultural community until 1943, when the residents here were given just 47 days to leave their homes, their farms, their schools and their business so that the Ministry of Defence could claim these lands for military training purposes. So come with me to investigate the sad story of Imber. The story of Imber begins in November 1943, when all residents received a shocking letter through their doors. The letter, penned by Lieutenant Colonel Thorne from the War Department, gave all at Imber just 47 days to leave the village. The War Department, or the Ministry of Defence as they are now known, already had ownership of a large percentage of Imber and the surrounding areas and had done since 1897. Technically, the residents were classed as tenants, so eviction in the eyes of the War Office was simple. Residents left broken-hearted but willing to play their parts in the war efforts and under the belief that they would be able to return once the war was over. Imber was to be used primarily to train American troops in preparation for the D-Day landings. But after the war, it soon became apparent that the residents would not be allowed to return to Imber. The military had found Imber to be extremely useful for urban warfare training, and the threat of danger from these exercises meant that Imber was no longer a safe place for civilians. During the 1960s, protesters breached the security at Imber to fight for the residents' return, but sadly to no avail. An agreement was reached, however, to allow residents to visit Imber for open days a couple of times during the year. This promise has been kept, and residents and their descendants have been able to walk the streets they so loved once again. Like many of the buildings here at Imber, the 18th century Baptist chapel has sadly now been demolished, but we are reminded of its existence by the gravestones left behind, memories of the congregation that once came here to worship. It's just such a shame we can't go any closer to the buildings. I really wanted to get in and explore them like you can at Tyneham, but sadly it's all forbidden here. Such a mixed emotion when you walk around here, because you feel so sad and so sorry and sympathetic for what happened to the villagers here. However, you do understand that this was needed during the war and that it was no longer a safe place for those residents to live. One building that remains as a beacon of hope for its community is the Church of St. Giles. Built in the late 13th century, this church has been spared damage by military fire and still stands strong. The church is constructed with limestone and flint and contains a nave, north and south aisles, chancel, north vestry and a west tower with a peal of 5 bells. Burials have continued here even after the closure of Imber, with residents choosing the village they loved so much as their final resting place. This church is absolutely beautiful, but it is jam-packed with people inside, so very difficult to film, but I'll see what I can do. In the 1950s, all fixtures and fittings were removed from the church and distributed to other churches in Wiltshire, a sure sign that there would no longer be any services held at the church. The church now hosts open days, serving teas and coffees and giving people a chance to look at old photographs of Imber and to speak to local historians. In 1960, plans to move the whole church to Warminster were met with strong opposition from locals. This time the people won, and the church remains, maybe, as the final link these people have to Imber.